murder, you know? I think after playing Gears 2, you may want to switch to being a vegetarian.
One of the things people really complain about with Gears of War 1 is the party system, right? The lack of the ability to, say, take your friends into a ranked match as a team together, able to find other people in ranked matches, all that kind of stuff. And when we talked to you guys back then, you blamed a lot of it. It's like it wasn't set up yet in Microsoft's system to be able to handle that stuff for you guys. But you know, now we've seen it in a lot of other games. What are you guys going to do differently now?
Ideally, if this should be a function of live. Whereas as a developer, if I'm going to make a live game, the party system is included. It's part of the friends list. It's part of that whole system, right? But as it stands, we as developers have to do a lot of the front-end work with that, and we all have to kind of hook it in. And I mean, quite frankly, we should have had it in Gears 1. And you know, Gears 1 was a success online despite of that fact. And so I think moving forward to Gears 2, having it out of the box and just being able to just link everybody up together as a group and just you know, party up and challenge another group, just it changes the game tremendously, especially considering the fact that Gears is such a team-based game, and you have batch of guys ready in a lobby versus batch of guys, and then just match makes and uses true skill to actually match you know, similarly talented people together, so that's a, you know, reasonably fair match. It changes the game entirely, and yeah, we should have had it from the get-go, and now we deliver it.
So we have actual team ranking? Or is it going to be like Halo where you have individual rankings for the players? I'm
not quite sure what the behind-the-scenes numbers are going to work out to be, but we are using True Skill, and I'm not sure if it'll be an average of everybody together or if it'll use some sort of aggregate of that. But it will essentially, I want to avoid the whole system whereas, you know, my team shows in and you know, they're basically like newbies, and then all of a sudden the other guys show up who've been playing the game for 6 months, and then we get our asses destroyed. So there will be behind-the-scenes matchmaking that goes on with True Skill, but I'm not quite sure how it's going to break down on a character-by-character, person-by-person basis.
We have clan support, like things where you can message your clan, have a team name, and all that kind of stuff?
Clan support is not planned at this time.
No. How come?
Quite frankly, it's one of those things that, given the time frame of development, it's a feature that was a stretch goal from the get-go, and it may be something that is added in a later date, but right now it looks like it's not going to happen. We want to have the rich party system is where we're at right now in our development.
And how do you take care of the host advantage? Because that was a big complaint with the game. You know, like those little balancing things, like maybe pistol whipping was a little unfair. You guys had to tweak grenade tagging after a while because people were kind of using that a little bit too much, chasing after their achievements maybe.
Well, I think there's multiple issues involved in there, man. I mean, the first thing is you know, host advantage is something we're very much concerned about. Basically what we want to do is bring the performance of everybody else across the board that much higher as far as network optimization, so everybody has a far more consistent experience. We're offloading the voice server from the host to other servers, so that basically, you know, it's kind of a shared distribution of network work across the various clients. We're also doing a lot of work in regards to achievements to make sure that players don't grok the system, so you can only acquire one headshot, one point towards your headshot achievement in each round or match. So you don't just go for the sniper rifle and essentially try and, you know, do that achievement grind the entire time. On the flip side of that, we also have achievement tracking, so we have that kind of meta RPG element, whereas you go in your multiplayer setup and you can actually see the last 3 achievements you've chipped away at, so you can see the progress bar, so you can see how close you're getting towards your seriously achievement or your headshot achievement or any of those, which kind of adds this kind of meta RPG type element. And it's just overall network improvements across the board. We're getting better at using our own tools, better at using our own technology, and we're going to deliver a very, very crisp online experience.
Is that tougher now? Because now you're doing 5-on-5, so you're adding 2 more players, and on top of that you have all the new stuff where as a dead player, as a spectator, you can do all these camera angles, you can take screenshots, and you guys said that if you take screenshots, it's sort of like Pokemon Snap or Dead Rising, where you get scored on it based on how everything's framed in a picture. So all of that must take up some bandwidth at some point.
But a lot of that happens in the client, right? Like if I'm going around, you know, and I'm spectating, you know, all you have to do is kind of just keep track of the guys. I'm not really participating and affecting the battle. So once you go into spectator, you're kind of in your own channel. And then when I take a screenshot, it will store it locally until at a later date I tell it to upload to a third-party proxy server. So that kind of operates outside of the regular network bandwidth stream. And it's just, being intelligent about what we send, because the pipe is only so thick, and we need to figure out smartly what to send. And when you look at expanding the game to a 5-on-5, the way that Gears is designed, at any given point, you may start off with 5 players on 5 players active, but in Warzone, quickly a couple players are going to get picked off because they'll just get killed. And then in other game modes, we have a spawn queue, so players are currently churning through. So it's really not that many more players that are active at any given time in the battlefield, so it's not that much more that we will need to optimize for that.
And it seems like you guys addressed probably the other biggest complaint is you're kind of invulnerable during certain animations. If you're if you're in the middle of a chainsaw execution and someone's shooting at you, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's not fair, right?
Yeah. So can you explain how that's going to work now? How much damage you can take during these executions, and how you're going to animate all this, and how it's going to make sense to the player?
So basically, in Gears 1, for those who may remember, when I was performing a chainsaw move on the other guy, what we would do is we would temporarily put the player in God mode for the 2 or 3 seconds it took to do the chainsaw. And what would ultimately happen is the guy attacking the enemy, he'd leverage the invulnerability to get more kills. So he could essentially chainsaw through 2 or 3 guys without taking very much damage at all. And that's just not fair. And so one of the very first things we did in Gears 2 is disable that whole fake God mode element that went on, whereas it was kind of an exploit that players wound up using. So now if you are in fact going to chainsaw somebody, you are in fact vulnerable to shots. And up until the moment, whereas once you start sawing somebody, the other guy will be dead, but you can also be taken out in the process by somebody else shooting at you. So if I take the risk to reward, I manage to get the chainsaw on you, you are going to be dead regardless of whether or not the animation completes. So you can't save the other guy, but what you can do is shoot the guy who's in the progress of killing your buddy.
Now the thing is, I look at that as a player and I'm like, okay, great, you fixed this one thing, but then are you going to get people not wanting to do the executions and not wanting to get into those animations because you're stuck there now? Even if it's 2 or 3 seconds, you're going to take a few more bullets than you used to be able to. And I might say, screw that, I'll just do a quick melee attack instead. Or if I down a guy, I'm not going to go bother to go over and try to execute him. I'll just shoot him from a distance, and you kind of take away some of the personality that you had in Gears of War 1.
Well, those are choices that we want to empower the player to actually make that decision. So the player has multiple choices of the length of executions that he wants to perform, and we also have the option of execution mode, which we, as the designers, decide on a game-by-game basis. If you play Wingman, which is one of the new game types, which is the 5 teams of 2, and you shoot somebody down, it's not physically possible to kill them from a distance once they're down. You actually physically have to go up and finish them off, which is a design choice that we made because we didn't want players just completely finishing people. We want them to risk going out and taking out the other guy. And then of course, since he has his buddy, his teammate can revive him and bring him back into the game up to 6 times in that game mode, and then therefore executions suddenly become that much more of an integral part of the gameplay, and that risk to reward ratio becomes a lot more interesting.